Welcome everybody to the PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I am here with Rob and Donald. And although there's really no baseball going on, there's no business being conducted, there are still rumors going into the mill. And the new thing is now about Seiya Suzuki being posted once baseball resumes. And the odds of him coming to the Yankees, although as a right fielder, he might not have the exact fit, or, we don't know where he would play in the outfield, but it's still something I think that's very enticing for the Yankees to explore, especially with the uncertainty of Hick's health and the left field position. So, do you think that if he's strict to playing the right field, that the Yankees would make a pass?
I mean, he can play all over the place. He's played some center field in his career. He's played left field. He's also played shortstop before. He's won the Gold Glove over there in Japan. So I'm sure if he needed to make the switch to left or center field, he'd be fine. I mean, we just saw this year the Yankees were able to manage with Aaron Judge in center field, who's a big dude, and he was able to do it just fine. I don't think it'd be that much of a transition for him. It would be a learning process for sure, but I think he's a good enough athlete where you can put him out there in center field or in left field and he'd be just fine. Now, the big question is, would this mean they move on from Hicks or Gallo even? Would they make a move if they get Suzuki? Because then you almost have too much power in your outfield to where somebody's going to have to go. I don't know if they're going to want to pay $10 million to Aaron Hicks to be the fourth outfielder, although that's probably what he should be. So that's where a decision probably has to come into play.
No, actually,
I
didn't put any thought of it until now. And maybe because of Hick's health, that maybe being the fourth outfielder would make him more productive.
Well, 100%, we can't rely on Hicks to be an everyday center fielder. That just cannot happen. He should not be our starting center fielder next year, or it's a failure. We do know that the Yankees have entertained talks with Joey Gallo, trade talks about Joey Gallo so far this offseason. But, I mean, it's very preliminary, and Cashman's probably just taking calls as he does with all things. So I'm not quite sure how serious it is, but if we were to bring this guy in, I think it would make sense to trade Joey Gallo, because I would probably prefer a more regular center fielder that, that's done it, been there, done that, so we'll think about that. But for now, I'm quite enticed by this Suzuki option. He's versatile. He's played like 6 positions so far in his career in Japan. He's won multiple Gold Gloves. So you can play the outfield. You can think about having either Gallo or Judge playing center field. He can play left, whatever. I don't quite know how the alignment would work, but if you go through his offensive numbers, it fits what the Yankees want. Like if you go through his stats, he's a 1-to-1 walk to strikeout ratio. So he's striking out about 88 times, walking around about 89 times, something like that. So those are really good numbers. So he's obviously got a very good eye for the plate. He doesn't strike out much. His batting average is always in the high 310s, into the 320s. You like that too. And he's got a very nice level swing. When looking at his videos, he's got a very nice level swing through the zone, powerful swing through the zone, but it's level. It's not necessarily overly uppercut. It seems like a very nice swing that I think could translate to the majors. I don't know what you guys think.
He's got a very pure swing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's the type of swing that started to benefit Stanton throughout the year, is he went for a more natural swing instead of trying to uppercut, and go for the launch angle. So that's what the Yankees really need. They need players with a natural swing, and they're not trying to adapt to the hype of the launch angle and all that. So I think if that's a bat that the Yankees are able to acquire, they have to go all in unless he decides that a lot of the stars from Japan, they do prefer the West Coast because it's just they feel like they're a little closer to home. So we still have to worry about what other teams might be in the mix for him. The other East Coast team that was mentioned by Talking Rivals was
Boston.
Boston. Looking at for him as an outfielder. So the Yankees are going to have some competition in the game, but which is fine. But the Yankees need to be the Yankees and stay aggressive if they really want to get him to improve the roster.
Yeah, further to your point, according to the New York Post, the Boston Sports Journal's Sean McAdam has the Yankees as one of the most aggressive pursuers for Seiya Suzuki, along with the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. They seem to be the favorites at the moment. His posting fee is also attractive. Or what he could command, in free agent salary. We're probably looking at 5 years, 55. That's what's being quoted, around about between $10 and $11 million a year. If you get, his numbers are not going to be the same, in Japan as it is here. I just can't imagine that. Yeah. But even if it's a small drop off for $10 million, look what Aaron Hicks is giving us for $10 million. He's giving us nothing. He's never healthy. So for $10 million, if you get a guy that's gonna, get on base, hit some power, and hit for average. And he also got a little bit of speed. He's not fast, but he's got a little bit of speed to him. He's stolen bases before. And he's got a Gold Glove caliber defense. I mean,
well, the Yankees don't
use look at anyway. It. Exactly. But you look at it, and the things that he provides, the kind of things that the Yankees are looking for.
Yeah.
He
fills a lot of the gaps. He does.
Yeah. And the posting fee is only about $9 million anyway, which in comparison, I think Tanaka was about 20, 25, something like that. So, I mean, you're not paying that much for a bat that, has already been put into the top 50 in some guys' free agent list. So, a lot of different reporters have put him in their top 50 free agents, and he's going to cost a fraction of what a guy like Castellanos would probably get on the open market. So, if you can get him, once we get back to baseball, whenever that is, I would definitely be all for it. I know he's a righty and everyone wants more lefty bats, but look, at some point, you got to accept the Yankees are going to go with 2, maybe 3 lefties in the lineup and just be like, that's your balance. It made us better last year towards the end of the season. And if you get a guy like him that's going to get on base, score runs, hit for power, you got to remember Yankee Stadium is a hitter's dream, the way that ball is going to carry. He could hit close to 40. I'm not trying to exaggerate or anything. He's got that kind of pop.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people are talking about the power that he generates with his swing. So if you can get him, go for it. Because especially if you're competition right now or your division rivals, and I don't think Toronto needs more offense the way they're built. So you got to go and get him. And if it has to cost you an extra $3 million a year to get him, I don't see what the big deal is.
Yeah, I don't see Toronto being a big player. Like you said, their offense is pretty strong, and not to say that teams don't want to improve on strength, but they really need to revamp their pitching staff, even, as like they've been doing before the shutdown. And so I think when business resumes, I think that's where they're going to start to refocus on. And really, the one thing that I think the Blue Jays really need to focus on is their relief pitching. So, not that I want to help other teams, but being that the Blue Jays came up, that's where I think they're going to focus as the shutdown when baseball resumes. But
it's kind of heartening though. It's kind of heartening though that the Red Sox and Blue Jays, two very good organizations, are looking at the same players as us.
Yeah.
We get a kind of good idea what kind of caliber player they're expecting, their projections are. From the kind of organizations are. So the Boston and Blue Jays and stuff like that are up in the upper echelon. So, you have a pretty good idea that this guy might work out. I mean, Ken Davidoff, for your point, Rob, has him number 36 in his free agent list. Over the last 6 seasons, he's hit .318 with 25 homers, 26 doubles, 75 ribbies. And he slugged 38, 88, and 9 stolen bases this past year. So, I mean, his OPS is fantastic. Have you guys seen his OPS? It's like 1,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're comparing him to Matsui. Like, I know that's basically, at least to us Yankee fans, that's like, any player that comes over from Japan, if you get comparisons to Matsui, you're like, oh, go get this guy. Now you have to be aware that not every player that comes over from Japan is going to be successful. I do think it's a little bit easier of a transition for a hitter to come over, because if you can hit a baseball in a professional league in Japan, you're probably going to be able to hit a baseball in America. Now, is the competition different? Probably, but it's not like he's going to go from being this 300 hitter to 120 or something like that. He's not going to be this monumental collapse like Kei Igawa was for us. So I think he'll be okay. I want him. I want to sign him. I want baseball back, first of all, because I like the fact that we're talking about a rumor, but just having that lingering when we resume hanging over my head is just very, very annoying. Yeah, it's very frustrating.
To get to stick with the Matsui, the stats that I found at the age of 26, Suzuki has a line of 317, 433, and 639 with 38 home runs. And at the same age of 26, Matsui is 316, 438, 654. So they're very comparable. But the problem with that is, and this is where a lot of baseball fans and especially Yankee fans can get wrapped up, if he's not exactly what Matsui is, he'll be declared a bust, if he doesn't reach those levels, those numbers. So we have to be very careful, and we said it the same thing with Dominguez. Be very cautious when comparing to other players, especially ones that have been successful, because you're almost setting them up where they have to reach that plateau. Otherwise, it was a waste, even if they remain to be a very valuable asset to a roster. If they don't reach that number, we're going to be like, well, we were told he was going to be the next Matsui. Well, he was comparable to him, but he's not Matsui.
Yeah.
The comparisons are there for his age 26 season. They both got basically exactly the same OPS. 1.092 for Suzuki. Matsui's just a little bit higher than that. So you can see the comparisons. I don't think there'll be a direct comparison personally. What do you think, Rob?
No, I mean, you can't look at him and be like, you have to be Matsui. It's hard to replicate what Matsui brought for us. I mean, the guy played every single game for like a good 3-4 years. He was excellent defensively before the injuries kind of slowed him down. He was obviously an amazing hitter, great in the locker room, and he was a key contributor to a World Series championship before they let him go for Nick Johnson. But that's another conversation. But if you get something, along the lines of, he's not going to hit 320 in the major leagues probably, but if he hit like 270, right? But he was still generating 30, 35 home run type of power and driving. Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be, wow, he's not putting up his Japanese league numbers, but those are still really good numbers. I mean, nowadays you're looking at a guy who's hitting 240, but if his on base is through the roof, he's considered to be one. Look at Joey Gallo. He's hitting, 200, but his on base is through the roof and he's getting 40 home runs a year. That's considered good. So if Suzuki comes over here and hits 250, but he's hitting 35 home runs, you're taking that every single day of the week. If he's driving in runs, he's playing good defense. I mean, there's a lot of factors into it. Will he be the same as Matsui? No, because it's a different league. Even over in Japan, it's a different league. It's
also a different time period.
How long? Right, exactly. It's a much different time period in both leagues, both in Japan and here in America. 20-year difference we're talking about almost. So, yeah, the game has changed, but I think he'll be fine. I think he'll come over here and he'll be fine. Will he be an MVP caliber player? No, but you're going to get a really good player for $12 million, maybe a little bit more. Like, to me, that's a very low risk for any team in baseball to make. I think any team would be lucky to have this guy on their roster.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the intangible aspects. I think it's the fact that the certain elements of his game will translate to the major leagues. The fact that he sees, he walks pretty well. He doesn't strike out too much. He is able to get on base. These are the kind of things that will translate. His power, that should translate. Maybe not as much as it is in Japan, but it should still translate. And defensively, that will translate. So I don't think I don't see. I don't think he'll have the highest ceiling. You won't have the Otani ceiling, the Matsui ceiling, but I think that he'll have a very reasonable floor. You know what I mean? I think the some of the comparisons. I've watched some videos. Some comparisons have him maybe being like an AJ Pollock with the Dodgers. I mean, obviously some had him as Acuna Jr. He won't be Acuna Jr. No chance of that. But I mean, both names are not bad players, man. Acuna's awesome, and AJ Pollock's a good player, very good player. 297 last year, so he's not a bad player at all. I think Suzuki should be an absolutely fine major league player. And if you're looking at 5 years, around about 10 million per, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, it is a no-brainer. And again, not that we're looking to already move on from him, but there's also the aspect of a contract like that is a movable contract. If you have a minor leaguer that's really bursting at the seams, ready to break through in the major leagues, so it gives you wiggle room. Where you're not locked in, where you're stuck with all this money. Also, you're already paying. And then the other way to look at it, going back to with center field with Hicks. Hicks is making $10 million a year. And he still has 4 years left.
Yeah.
So that's also Hicks. If he could prove himself, that's also a movable contract, where you don't have to worry about whether you could hold on to Suzuki and move on from Hicks. Even though Hicks can be valuable as a switch hitter, but he hasn't proven himself to be able to say, maybe we need to look at it a little deeper. Hicks would be the odd man out in a heartbeat.
Thing with Aaron Hicks is you know what you're getting with him when he's on the field. It's not a question of can he play. It's a question of can he it is a question of can he play. Will he be on the field? That is what you're going to get at him. You're going to get a lower batting average. Nothing spectacular, but nothing terrible either. He's going to get on base. I mean, look at what he's doing over in the, I think in Dominican League where he's playing right now. But he's got a low average. But if a few of those walks turn into singles, he's got like a 300 average. And people are like, wow, he's actually hitting well. But on base to me is almost just as important as batting average when you think about it. Because if a couple of those walks turn to singles, the average goes up, the on base stays the same. So you know what you're getting with Aaron Hicks. He's going to get on base. He's going to generate some power. When he's healthy, he's going to be a good defender. He's not going to be what he once was, but he's going to be a good defender. He can run. He just can't stay healthy. So, yeah, if he has to be the fourth outfielder at $10 million per year, I'm not a huge fan of it, but if it keeps him on the roster the entire season, he's a very valuable asset if he's healthy. That's been his question mark ever since we got him, is since 2017 at least, when he was starting to come up and be a solid player that we know he can be. He just can't stay on the field. He's had 1 or 2 healthy years. 2020 was healthy considering it was only a 60-game season, and his numbers weren't excellent, but they weren't terrible, right? But he just can't stay on the field. That's the big thing.
I don't see an organization stupid enough to take on 4 years of Aaron Hicks' contract. Let's be quite honest. So we are lumbered with this dreadful length of contract for somebody that can only play about 30 games a year. I don't trust the Yankees not to have him as a starting center fielder. I mean, it's very similar to what you're saying, Rob. Yeah, I agree. I mean, as a fourth outfielder, I can live with it as long as he's just a fourth outfielder. Yeah. Anything more than that, then it's a failure. I'm just going on the premise that we can't trade him. But well, the way I look at it is, it's kind of similar to Brett Gardner, great Yankee, all-time Yankee, right? But he probably should be just primarily used as a fourth or fifth outfielder for the last maybe year, maybe 2. But I don't trust the Yankees not to have played him every game because I love him so much, right? And it's very similar to Aaron Hicks. Just they adore Aaron Hicks. They adore the because he's Mr. Analytics, and the analytics guys adore him. So that's why they try and find ways of him playing every single day, and that's why I don't trust the Yankees in that regard. But if the Yankees were smart and they sow the wood for the trees a little bit, then I would have him as a fourth outfielder if we can't move him. And then we'd also have to consider, like I'm just looking at Brandon Cootie's article right there, and he does say that there is speculation they could trade Joey Gallo and give Aaron Judge a 9-figure contract. If I would consider maybe trading Joey Gallo, right? Because we're not. We shouldn't re-sign him next year. So I would trade him now. Well, we can still get assets for him. If we brought in Suzuki, put him in left field, right, and then you actually made a trade for a center fielder, like I don't know, like a Ketel Marte, Brian Reynolds, whatever. Stick him in center field. Got Aaron Judge and right. Suzuki and Stanton can share time in left field, something like that. I think, and then of course Suzuki can spell time for Aaron Judge and right. That I think that could work. I think that would maybe be my favorite scenario, rather than moving Aaron Judge over to center field. I don't know, what scenario would you guys prefer?
No, I think it creates a very productive merry-go-round with the outfield and the DH position. So you can get, Suzuki off this, out of the field for a game and put Stanton in left field. You could, have, put Judge in center now and then. We've seen that he's able to handle himself in center field, and this way you'll have, and then you have Stanton in right field. So there's many ways that the Yankees can make this work. They just, like I said, there was a thing that was said about Brian Cashman, where he's not trying to outspend everybody; he's trying to outthink everybody now. And this is one way that Cashman can say, "I figured this out. This will work." But he's got to be smart about it. If he wants to outsmart everybody, here's your way. Here's your path to do that.
Yeah. Even if you keep Gallo, right, that outfield merry-go-round is still really good defensively, no matter how you shape it.
Yeah.
Even with Aaron Hicks out there from time to time, he's still a good defender. I mean, I know the hate for Aaron Hicks has been through the roof because of his injuries, but it's just when he is out there, he's a solid ball player. When he's out there, he's worth the contract. It's, again, the question of the health. So if you keep Gallo and you keep Hicks and you sign Suzuki, I fear that kind of locks Stanton into that DH position again, which I don't want. But you can still kind of have that merry-go-round scenario where different guy DHs almost every day, and we know how the Yankees like to give out days off. So maybe they can use that DH position as more of a day off kind of thing. They still have to figure out the infield, but that's for another topic. So, I mean, there's options. That's the one thing that we talked about this whole offseason is they have options. I just want them once baseball is back, they got to get moving quick. Like moves got to start dropping immediately, because once this thing ends, it could be a couple of weeks before pitchers and catchers report. So they got to get speeding up this process once we are back in business. Fingers crossed that's sooner rather than later.
I don't dislike Aaron Hicks due to injuries, man. I dislike him due to personality. I don't think he is the personality that reflects well in a winning ball club. He is coddled. He's soft. He's very mentally soft. And it just kind of signifies my issues with at least a quarter of our starting lineup. I mean, you're looking at Gary Sanchez and Gleyber Torres, very similar, kind of soft, mentally soft attitude, and definitely not gamers. They're definitely not gamers, whichever, anybody can debate me as to, how they translate power-wise, but they are not gamers. And that's my issue with the Yankees, and they need to get more warriors in this team. That's why people love Brett Gardner, even though he's old and, he probably should retire now. There is not enough warriors. He certainly was one. And we need more of them. Judge Stanton has shown more of that this year. So that's my issue with Aaron Hicks. I don't think he loves the game of baseball that much. I think he does it for profession. You already see how much he loves playing golf. I think he actually prefers playing golf, and it's not me being hyperbolic. I just think that's the truth. So that's my issue with Aaron Hicks. I don't know what you think about that, Rob.
I think the whole golf thing, as much as as much truth as there may be into that, I also want think that people have very they get deep into their hobbies, and that they're their secondary craft and their skills that kind of outshine what they normally do. So we're like, well, maybe they prefer, maybe they'd be better off doing that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that he is, he was still able to, he's still able to be a major league ball player, and he can be successful at it while still, playing 18 holes.
Well, we know he's got a future in golf. Once his baseball career ends, we know where he's going to be going.
And that's fine. A lot of players have done it.
Yeah. And that same conversation was being had during the when baseball got shut down in 2020, and a lot of players were on Twitch and streaming, and streaming video games. A lot of people were complaining about Glaber's, like, oh, that's why he's out of shape. He's too busy playing games. And people just want to make excuses for have reasons for things to complain about. But I mean, I do agree with what Donald said there. The Yankees need more, I guess, anger, I guess would be the word. They need guys that are going to get angry, because you've seen a lot of times Glaber this past year not running out a ground ball. Then Aaron Judge is the one that's kind of tearing into him in the dugout. Like, what are you doing? We need more of that. So if they were to move on from, guys like Sanchez, Torres, and Hicks this offseason and, bring in, I guess, more fighters, more warriors, as you said, Donald, then it wouldn't be a bad thing at all. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're moving on from Torres, at least, or Hicks. Sanchez still is up in the air, but there are guys out there, though, that they can, replace those three with. Brian Reynolds is one of them. I would do a lot to get this guy on our team. I think he'd be a perfect fit. I just don't think they're going to go out and trade the assets to get him. But again, that's another conversation. It sucks, man. We're still in a freaking lockout. We're talking about rumors and stuff, knowing that we can't do it.
Yeah,
I hate it. I hate baseball. I hate Manfred. I hate Clark. I hate them all. Hate them all. Screw them.
Well, what I will say is, when we come on tomorrow, we are just going to have a rant session, because I think it's overdue. We've been sitting for a couple of days. Everything's just festering. The frustrations, the rumor mills, all the speculations, where we all know that nothing can happen, but we all want something to happen, even though there's no business going on. So the frustrations are building. We're going to go on a rant tomorrow. And is it possible that a former Yankee could be returning to the Bronx? So we're going to go look into who that could be. So tune in tomorrow. All right, you are listening to sportnarium.com/player. This is Pinstripe Chronicles. Wear your pinstripes with pride. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Do that too. Wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard. And tomorrow I will do the exit a lot better.
Thanks, people.